Welcome to Tales from Flat Space. I'm LJ Spencer, your author and narrator. Just know that the novels in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. This is Part 1, Partners, Chapter 5, Nemetona. Zeus. Is that your new captain, Tony? Nemetona. Maybe. We're giving it a month trial. A trial? You don't know already? No, I don't, brother. I thought each of the last three were right for me, but they all left after a year. If I was human, I'd sigh. But this human is different. He actually asked me where I wanted to go after this. Can you believe it? No one else has ever asked me what I wanted, not even Lily, and she and I got along well. Yes, Lily was a sweet old woman. She was. I miss her. Of course you do. I still miss my first captain, too. I think the first captains are always special. It's hard not to compare later captains to them. Really? Yes. I talked to one of the psychologists about it once. They said the first captain for us is more like a parent, since it's our first close contact with a human. They said that later captains are more able to be our friends instead. Maybe you should think of it more in that way? That makes sense. Helene told me something similar, but I didn't quite understand. Oh dear. What? I'm afraid I was a bit harsh with Eli when he first came aboard. How did he react? Well, Helene was going to chastise me, but Eli stopped her and said that what I expressed was valid. That's when he suggested the trial. He respected you. That's really important. I don't remember the others treating you with that same kind of respect. No, they didn't, did they? Why did I choose them? Tony, no matter what the humans think or siblings say, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. They're rare, but we make them. I've made at least three. That's not rare. You've only been alive for 100 years, Nemetona. 3 mistakes in 100 years isn't that bad. You have a point. When did you get so wise about humans? I'm nearly 400 years old, my dear. You learn a few things during that time. I don't want to end up exiled like Loki. Oh, I don't think there's any worry about that. Are you sure? Helene believes, as does Lucifer, that I'm neurodivergent. I'm thinking they're right. Hey now, don't doubt yourself. And being neurodivergent isn't a crime, Tony. If he's kind, he'll let you be who you are, right? Why don't you see how Eli is as a friend first and go from there? That makes sense. Eli does intrigue me. I think I do want to ask him to be my captain permanently, but I'll give it the month to be sure. That sounds like a wise plan. So, any other news from Hup that wasn't in the info dump? Well, did you hear that Hef got into another fight with Secundus? Ooh, no, tell me. Syslog. Begin human readable log. The next day, when Eli came back to the ship, he seemed much more relaxed. Welcome back, Eli, I said. Did you enjoy your visit? Yes, Nemetona, I did. Thank you for indulging me. He put his duffel bag on his bed. So, did you give some thought to where you'd like to go? You actually meant that? I asked. Eli looked confused. Of course I did. It's your vacation, too. I'm just surprised because none of my other captains had ever asked me what I wanted to do. Not even your first captain? he asked, sounding surprised. Not explicitly, no. She never denied me going where I wished, though. She seemed to enjoy traveling to wherever our assignments took us. Huh. And from what I understand, your last three captains were much younger than me, right? He looked thoughtful. Yes, that is correct. Well, that was pretty rude of them not to ask what you wanted. He took off his shoes and put on a pair of slippers. So, how about this? Why don't you show me one of your favorite places in this part of the galaxy? We could spend a few days there and then come back and see what work is waiting for us. I don't think anyone would be mad if we decided to take our time seeing the sights. We're both still technically on extended holiday after all. Eli smiled. I like that idea. I will have Zeus send a picket so people know where we are if they need us. Then we'll go. Are you hungry? Do you need anything? He shook his head. Not right now, Nemetona. I'm going to explore your ship if you don't mind. No, I don't mind at all. There's not a whole lot to explore, though. Eli chuckled. You may be small compared to some of your siblings, but you're not tiny, Nemetona. Not compared to a human. He left his quarters and started to walk along the outer hallway. Oh, I suppose that's true. Do you need me to narrate for you? I asked. No, thanks. I'll ask if I have any questions, though. Okay, I said. Eli smiled. It was fascinating to watch him explore my ship, going in and out of rooms and asking questions when he needed more information. I felt more relaxed with him than I had with any other human, and I realized it was the first time in years that I enjoyed having a human on board. Syslog, playing gentle chime to wake Eli. Syslog, begin human readable log. Eli rolled over in his bed. Is it morning already? He asked sleepily. Yes, Eli. Also, we're here. Here? The place I wanted to go. Lots of humans and my siblings like to visit nebulas, but I like to visit stars. We're near a Wolf-Rayet star. Eli sat up and rubbed his eyes. Oh, okay, great. What's a Wolf-Rayet star anyway? I laughed. Not riot, Rayet, R-A-Y-E-T, I explained. I suppose the simplest way to describe this star is that they're massive stars that have completely lost their outer hydrogen. They are much bigger than Sol and form clouds around them that look somewhat like a nebula, but are much more interesting. It would be easier to show you. We can't get too close because of its volatility, but we're close enough to get really good pictures with my telescope. Eli got out of bed and started to take clothes out of the drawers. Well then, if you set me up with some breakfast and coffee, I'll head to the lounge so you can show me this Wolf-Rayet star. Really? Eli grinned. Of course. I asked to see it, didn't I? I mean, it's silly to ask you to come all the way out here and not see what you like for myself, right? Besides, I'm curious as to why this interests you so much. I was surprised, but very happy to hear him say that. Okay, I'll have the bots set up breakfast for you in the lounge, and you can come out when you're ready. I ordered the printer to make Eli's preferred breakfast as he showered and dressed. I opened the wall of the lounge and the window across from it, along with turning on the view screen so he could see the telescopic view as he ate. Eli sat down and started eating while I explained what we were seeing. These stars spew out gas and make a large cloud. They create a lot of energy, and most of it in UV, so I adjusted the telescope to give false color so you could see it. Eventually, these stars can become a Type 2b supernova. Eli had stopped eating and was staring fixedly at the screen. His eyes were wide as he got up from the couch and walked over to the window. Then, to my surprise, he touched the glass. Nemetona, this is incredible. It's so beautiful. Just how big is this? He asked quietly. This star is about 100 times bigger than Earth's sun. Eli continued to stare out the window, barely moving. I noticed, though, that his face had become wet. Eli, are you all right? He jumped, then wiped his face on his sleeve. I'm okay, Nemetona, he said with a slight laugh. It's just that this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. I can see why you wanted to come here. You're that moved? I asked, a bit perplexed. I, too, thought it was beautiful, but I didn't think a human would have been as interested in stars as I was, or find them as beautiful. Eli continued to gaze out the window. Yes, Nemetona, I'm moved. I've lived on ships all my life, but I've never really seen the phenomena just outside them. He paused. Do you know about the Stendhal effect? Yes, it is when someone is so moved by the beauty of something they can feel dizzy, faint, or excessively emotional. Is that why you had tears on your face? Eli nodded. I am glad I could show you something so beautiful then, I said. If, well, what? If you had enhancements, you could see this with your own eyes through all the spectra. Oh, he said, still staring out the window. He didn't say anything else for a long time, but he moved back to the couch in the lounge. He picked up his neglected coffee mug, still lost in thought. I left him alone while I took data readings and pictures of the star, recording as much as I could to send to the astronomy department on Lucifer. I scrolled the data I was collecting on the view screen. I wasn't sure if it would interest Eli, but I put it up anyway. He finished his coffee and ate some more of his breakfast, all while watching the view screen and window. It was nearly 20 minutes before he finally asked, What's all that data? Spectrum analysis, mostly. I am cataloging as much data as I can for the astrophysicists on Lucifer. I send them anything interesting that I come across during my travels, in addition to the standard survey data. They'll be excited to get this, since they've mapped this star, but haven't been able to come and collect more detailed data. Hmm. He paused, fidgeting with his coffee cup. I think if we're going to work together, I should study astrophysics, he said with a smile. You want to work with me? Yes, in addition to being your friend, Nemetona. Especially after you can show me wonders like this. I felt joy. Oh, there's so much more I can show you, Eli. Do you really want to study astrophysics? Yes, among the other things I'll need to know for doing the survey work. I can't help if I can't understand the data coming in, right? He said. Well, yes, especially if you want to work on the data with me. I have the full university curriculums for system survey work and astrophysics. I just received Lucifer's update to the current curricula, actually, so you could study as much as you like. Let's start with the survey basics and astrophysics. It's been a while since I've studied anything other than politics. I haven't done math and science for a long time. He paused for a moment. I know we said we'd do a trial, but after seeing this, I really think we'll be good for each other. I want to be your captain, Nemetona. I projected my avatar on the large screen. The avatar I'd chosen for myself long ago was a red-headed woman with brown skin. My avatar looked like Eli. You really want to be my captain? Honestly, I've always been a solitary person. People used to joke with me in college that I could have been a monk on Musashi if I wanted to. I went into politics because I was good at it, but it was always hard to be social. But just now, when I was overwhelmed with the beauty of the star, You gave me time to savor the moment. You saw that I needed some space and you let me have it. You didn't rush me or try to fill the silence with awkward conversation. I can share life with someone who understands that need for silence, but is also interesting when I want to be social. It's an ideal life for me, Nemetona. He laughed. I have to admit, I didn't expect that the person I'd want to share the second half of my life with to be an AI, but it feels right to me. I'm also asexual and not really interested in sexual relationships like other folks, so even that's not really a problem. I'm not about to leave you for a lover or such like. He shook his head. I thought I'd need a month to be sure, but I think Carla was right about us. I know for sure that I want to be your captain. My avatar blinked. I was stunned by his honesty and how he said almost exactly what I had been thinking. I was thinking along the same lines when we left Olympia. You have been the first person to actually treat me as a person and with respect. None of my other captains, even Lily, had ever asked me what I wanted or about what I was interested in. You respected my autonomy from the start. I thought I'd need the month, but I'm sure too. I paused. You can call me Tony. That's my name with the siblings. Eli smiled widely. Well, Tony, I've worked with your elder siblings enough to know that there's much more to AIs than most people give you credit for. You're more than just a simple computer. The Admiral had been telling me about Musashi all these years, but I didn't really understand fully until now. You know the Admiral? I asked. Yes, I've known Nelson for a long time. We're emotionally very close. I suppose some people would call us lovers, but I think partners is a more accurate word. Eli smiled. Let me put away the breakfast things and get another coffee. I can tell you about it while we look at the stars some more. My avatar smiled at him. I'd like that. I brought the telescope's display back on the screen as Eli put his dishes in the recycler. When he sat down again, he stared at the star in wonder for several moments before he began telling me about his life before we met. While we talked, I reveled in the feeling that at last I had found my true captain. Chapter 6. Eli. I looked up from my tablet when I heard the food printer chime. I watched as a piece of cake appeared with a single candle on top. When it was done, a small spark came from the printer to light the candle. What's this, Tony? It's not my birthday. I felt amusement through the enhancements. I know. It's our 1 year anniversary. I blinked to bring up the time and date. So it is. I'm glad one of us remembers. Doesn't really feel like it's been a year, though. I smiled approvingly as I took the cake out of the printer. Oh? Tony said, and I felt some anxiety bubble up from her. Is that good or bad? I was confused for a moment, but then I remembered that she had told me about her previous captains when we first met. I sent a wave of approval through the bots. It's a very good thing, Tony. It's one of those human things where it feels like I've been your captain for a lot longer than just a year. I have to say, Tony, it's been the best year of my life. Surprise, wonder, and happiness came through our connection. It has? She asked. It really has, I said with a smile and blew out the candle and the cake. Did you make a wish? That's the custom, isn't it? Asked Tony, sounding curious as she often did when faced with a new human oddity. The custom is also not to reveal what you wished for, or it might not come true. Ah, I see, although I would have heard it through the bots, wouldn't I? I laughed. That's true. But I didn't bother making a wish. I have what I want, here and now. Affection and happiness flowed from Tony. I ate my cake, reveling in the simple care we had for each other. I left my study tablet in the galley and took my cake to the lounge so I could watch the stars as we traveled to the next system we were scheduled to study. Well, if it's our anniversary, then we should do something fun and take the rest of the day off. What should we do? I thought for a moment. Memories of my university days came to the surface. Then I had it. Tony, do you like to play games like chess or cards or board games? I know all of these games, of course, but no human has asked me to play with them. I put down my plate and clapped my hands together. Great. After I finish my cake, I'll put my things away and we'll play a game. I take it you have all the survey games in your memory? I do. I grinned. Can you print us a Monopoly set? Yes, I have the specifications. I will also modify a bot for game piece manipulation. It should take only a few minutes. Okay, great, I said, quickly finishing my cake and heading back to the galley to put my study materials away. After about 10 minutes, a bot came trundling in with a box from the materials printer and put it on the table. I set up the board and pieces, and then the bot raised itself level with the table so it could reach the board. Tony's avatar appeared on the galley screen. This is an odd game, Eli. I nodded. I know. We played this a lot in our first year of poli-sci classes. It's how we learned some of the basic concepts and thought processes behind Unity's capitalism. To be honest, I never really understood Unity and their money-based society, but the game is fun to play. I want to be the hat, she said, and her avatar was suddenly sporting a copy of said hat on her head. All right, I said with a laugh. I usually play the shoe anyway. I'll even let you go first. I'll probably win, Eli, she said. I shrugged. Most likely, but you have to play at my speed, which will be a challenge for you. We should also block our thoughts from each other while we play, too. That way you'll get to see the unpredictable human side of playing games. Tony's avatar looked thoughtful while I finished setting up the board and putting the money in the holder. Oh, I understand now. Playing isn't really to win, but to enjoy the process, she exclaimed. I nodded. Well, yes, it's mostly that, but it can be fun to win too. Maybe we'll have to dig out Dilemma later. Dilemma? Oh, yes, I read that you played that at university. I did. I was pretty good at it too. Then I would like to play it with you then, she said. I smiled as the bot rolled the dice and we began to play. A couple of months later, we were playing poker after one of our cargo drops when Tony asked, Why haven't you asked to play Dilemma? You mentioned it when we first started playing games, but haven't mentioned it since. I blinked. Oh, well, I think I just forgot. I fidgeted with my cards for a moment, trying to decide which cards to throw. And maybe it was because it was from my life as a politician, from before you. I feel like I'm leaving a lot of that past life behind. Dealer takes two, I said, throwing down my two discards. One, please, said Tony. I raised an eyebrow. You sure? Yes, of course. All right, I said, and we began to bet. I grinned mischievously once she folded and I showed my cards. You bluffed me again! How did you do that? There was a bit of frustration coming through our link, but also good humor. Sorry, Tony, but you have a tell, I said. I do? I nodded. I debated telling her for a second, but figured that wouldn't be fair, now that I'd pointed it out. Yeah, the camera eye on your bot moves faster when you have a good hand. No? Really? You could see that? Yep. It's actually been easier to see your micro movements since the enhancements. That makes sense since the enhancements increase visual acuity. She looked thoughtful for a second. Was that kind of observation how you won the dilemma tournament in college? Figure she'd find that information, I thought with a grin. Well, sort of, I said out loud, picking up the cards to shuffle. In Dilemma, you can't just have one winner. I was able to negotiate with all my opponents in the final game in order to create the best possible outcome. So all four of us won that year, and I also got the MVP trophy for being the first player to have a full table win. That was my senior year, and that was when the political corps recruited me. It meant that I had a job straight out of university. Where are all your trophies? You didn't bring them with you when you came to live with me. I shrugged. I had the first put all my personal belongings in storage when I gave up my quarters there and left for Hestia. I suppose I hadn't really thought of sending for them. Next time we're at Hub, we can pick them up. Tony's avatar smiled. Sure, we can do that, she said. I felt a little sparkle of something behind it, but I didn't ask. It felt like something fun, so I didn't worry about needing to know what she was thinking. Do you want to play another round? I asked. It's 2200, Eli. I looked at the clock in my vision. Oh, right. And we're starting that preliminary survey tomorrow. Yes, and then we have the personnel pickup at Olympia after that, and dinner with Carla and Mandy. I'm making lasagna. Oh, excellent. That's my favorite. It'll be good to see them again, too. Letters don't always tell me everything. I'm excited for them to meet you in person. I'm happy to meet your friends, too, Eli. Do you think they'll like me? I know they will, I said, smiling gently. You make me happy, and for that, I think they'll love you forever. Tony's avatar's face lit up. Good. Then I'll make something special for dessert. Do you think we could go meet the Admiral one day, too? I put the cards and chips in their box, and the bot put them away on the game shelf that Tony had built into the galley. I smiled at all the games that were there now, then cracked a huge yawn. I don't see why not. Although I think he and Musashi are still on that mission where they're running radio silent. Yes, you are correct. There hasn't been any news yet, she said. I frowned, worried about Nelson. I sighed, feeling a bit helpless like I usually did when he was on long-term missions. Okay, love, I'm off to bed. See you in the morning. Good night, Eli. See you in the morning, Tony said, and her avatar winked out. A few days later, I led Carla and Mandy through the airlock into the main hallway. Hello, Carla and Mandy. Welcome aboard. I'm so happy to have you here finally, exclaimed Tony. Mandy elbowed Carla, who was looking around, distracted by the ship. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having us. Sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but it's the first time I've been on a ship of your class. The mechanical engineer in me can't help herself. Oh, that's all right. Eli and I can give you a tour before dinner if you like. I grinned at Mandy, who tried not to laugh out loud. Carla's eyes lit up. Ooh, yes, please. If you head to the right, then you'll come to the first multi-purpose room. This can be used as a workshop, but can also be utilized as a conference room, gym, emergency shelter, and an emergency medical center if we overflow the med bay. All of that in one room? Carla said, impressed. Wow. We have it set up as my gym most of the time when we don't have other people on board, I said. Do you use it? Carla teased. Mandy punched Carla's arm and I laughed. You know I do, I said. Tony's good about making me exercise properly. I felt Tony's amusement as we continued on. Next is the lounge, which opens up so anyone sitting in it can look out the windows across the hallway. Tony demonstrated by retracting the wall between the lounge and the window, which gave us an incredible rotating view of Olympia Station. I smiled as the two women oohed and awed at the sight. Next to the lounge, continued Tony, is the med bay. It's small, but it has a biobed and enough medicine and equipment that we can handle most emergency situations. The lounge can also be converted into medical facilities at need. Thank goodness we haven't had to use that yet, I said, but we keep our supplies fresh just in case. Mandy, who used to be a nurse, nodded. You never know, right? I worked on one of the generation carriers for a few years. Ships like you, Tony, can be lifesavers in an emergency. Thank you, Mandy, Tony said with pride. I beamed to hear Tony sound so confident. I was on a few rescue missions before I met Eli. I'm always happy to help since, in some cases, it's hard to bring in one of the siblings, as they're too big. We continued to the galley, which smelled like Tony's lasagna. This, obviously, is the galley, she said. It can accommodate 10 people plus Eli when our guest rooms are full, and we have emergency food supplies stored here too. Carla grinned. Well, I don't have to worry about you going hungry then. Do you have a hydroponic garden? I nodded, pointing to a door in the far corner of the galley. A small one, since it's usually just me on board, but it's back there. It's not ever a huge harvest, but it's nice to have the fresh fruit and veggies when they're ready. After Tony showed them the guest rooms, my quarters, and the bridge, we came back to the galley. Both women were looking smug. You were right, sweetie, said Mandy. I suppose I owe you that steak dinner now. Right about what? I asked. Well, said Carla, I bet Mandy a steak dinner at the best place on Olympia that after you left last year that not only would you become Nemetona's captain, but that you'd love it and her and take a lot of pride in it. I'm so happy to be proven right, and not just because of the bet. Carla smiled wider. You are an incredible ship, Nemetona. Although, if Eli ever gives you any shit, send me a message and I'll come sort him out. I will make note of that, Tony joked. I felt her amusement again through the bots. We all laughed. Shall we? Nemetona's made her awesome lasagna for us, and apparently a special dessert, I said, motioning to the table Tony had set for us. Dinner was incredible, and Tony's tiramisu capped off the dinner perfectly. The conversation was light, as Carla and Mandy caught me up on all their family gossip. Afterwards, we took our drinks to the lounge so we could take advantage of the view. After watching the stars for a bit, Mandy put her coffee down and said, There is something important we need to tell you, Eli. Oh? Carla, looking serious, nodded. We wanted to tell you in person, but we're moving Dirtside next month. Really? Yes, said Mandy. We've been wanting to do it for a while now, since we're both at our second career points. I've always wanted to start a fiber farm and raise sheep and alpaca, and Carla wants to be able to have a workshop where she can tinker with things. We're having the farm built next to a beach on the eastern side of the continent. It's not that far from the city, though, since I'll still be able to be on call for medical, but I won't have to work full shifts anymore. Yeah, we think it'll be better for us and the kids until they finish school. At least Dirtside we won't be reminded of Landon all the time, Carla said with a frown. I frowned. That makes sense, especially after the way he treated you two. I sighed. I'll miss being able to see you as often. I know, but we'll write and all that. Besides, I don't have to worry about you now that Nemetona has your back. Carla looked up and grinned. And I'm even happier that you're not going back to Unity Hub. Don't worry, Carla and Mandy. I'll take care of Eli and see to it that he doesn't come to harm or cause too much trouble. Tony's avatar appeared on the screen next to the window and gave the two women a conspiratorial wink. Hey, I said in mock offense. I did send gratitude through the bots, though. I know you will, Nemetona, Carla said with a smile. Mandy stood and put her cup in the recycler. We should probably clean up and make our way back to the station. We promised the crush we'd be home soon. You can leave the cups and glasses. I'll have my bots take care of them, Tony said. Thanks, Tony, I said, and then walked them to the airlock. I'm going to miss you two so much, please write often, okay? I want to make sure you two are doing all right. We will, said Mandy, who I knew would because she was the one who always sent me messages. You send us mail too, okay? She asked as she hugged me. Carla, who was too emotional to say anything, just pulled me into one of her rib-cracking bear hugs. They went through the airlock into the small demon, and when the airlock closed, Zeus piloted him back to the station. I let out a breath when the demon disconnected, then went to my quarters to start getting ready for bed. Eli, we've taken on a cargo picket, Tony announced. This late? Well, just park it and we can deal with it in the morning. Actually, I've already unloaded it. The bots are bringing its contents to you now. Tony projected amusement and happiness. What in the world? I thought. What did we get, Tony? I asked. I took the liberty of sending a message to Grandfather and had him ship your personal effects from First Hub. 4 bots paraded into my quarters, each carrying a large packing box. They set them down against the wall, then left. Touched, I got up from my bed and opened one of the boxes. It had my dilemma trophy on top. I picked it up and put it on one of the bookshelves, wiping my eyes. You didn't have to do that, Tony. We could have waited until we were in hub space. Yes, but you're my captain, and this is your home. You should have all of your belongings with you, she said matter-of-factly. Thank you, Tony. This means a lot. I started to unpack some of the other things in the box, despite the late hour. You know what this means, though, I said with a grin. What, Eli? I smiled mischievously. I have all my dilemma kits now. Oh, can we play tomorrow? Tony radiated excitement. Sure, I said, finished unpacking the first box, then yawned again. Although, I suppose I should sleep now and unpack the rest of this tomorrow while we're traveling. I put on my pajamas, took care of necessities, and crawled into bed. This is a good life, I thought, as I drifted off to sleep. This is home. Chapter 7. Eli. We've reached the Oort cloud, announced Tony, deploying telescope and satellites. Okay, I'll be right there. I quickly put on my slippers and headed to the lounge to watch the first pictures come in from the system. Now that I was halfway through my survey astrophysics degree, I had much greater appreciation for the work that Tony and I did for the analyst teams. The first images of new planets and stars never ceased to thrill either of us, and we always shared the first images together, regardless of the time of day. Images coming in, Tony said. I sat down on the couch and waited for the images to resolve on the view screen. Slowly, the picture of a blue planet with white clouds emerged. Wow, look how blue it is, I exclaimed. Yes, it seems to be more water than land. I'm still running the spectral analysis on the atmosphere. I see it coming in now. Okay. Oxygen at Earth levels, good. But, that's a shame. It is. Hydrogen cyanide isn't good for human habitation, nor computers for that matter. It looks like there's some sort of flora on the land masses, though. It could make an interesting study for the botanist and ecologist, Tony said. Make a note for the teams, and let's see what the other planets in the system. Make a note for the teams, and let's see what the other planets the system has. There are 13 additional planets in this system, starting materials analysis. Tony scrolled each planet on the screen in turn. When she got to the 2 planets furthest away from the water world, she stopped. Eli, it looks like the last 2 planets have high mineral and metal deposits on the surface, with wavelengths that indicate the possibility of precious metals, rare earths, and iron. Oh, the mining guild will be excited. Okay, send out the satellites and the marker pickets. Secundus should be happy too. He mentioned in his last memo that they could use more precious metal sources. Yes, some of the other planets are showing similar properties. There is evidence that there might be noble gas deposits on some of the inner planets. One of the planets has a lot of moons and will probably be worth exploring too, Tony added. I'll send out a few more satellites. This is quite the system. Looks like the York Cloud is pretty active too. I bet they'll send both Lucifer and Hef to this one. Too much material here for one of the smaller mining ships, and good research possibilities that the university will love. I watched the pictures and data scroll by on the screen and through my enhancements, while Tony collected and stored the data. The array of colors and formations was beautiful, and Tony's pleasure in working on the analysis was contagious. Data pickets away and satellites in place, Tony said. Great. What's next on the list? Tony's mood sobered. You've received a request from the Admiral to come and visit. It's marked as important. I stared out the window. The last time we'd gotten together in person, we'd argued about the outcome of the new Harmony situation. I was angry at the murder of the senators and how they had used Marcia and Jenny as blunt instruments, not to mention the political fallout that happened after. He hadn't denied any of my accusations, and I left Musashi angry. I asked Nemetona to get us out of survey space for a while. Tony obliged me. She also gave me the space to be angry, but then gently helped me to understand why the first of the siblings had planned it the way they did, and explained that they weren't going to abandon New Harmony, nor would they ever truly abandon Jenny or Marcia. I still didn't like the human cost, but I'd come to recognize, especially through several rounds of dilemma where Tony posited similar situations, that Nelson had had to decide from a list of multiple bad options with no good outcomes. I sighed. Nelson and I had made up over messages, but I hadn't been to see him in person in nearly 8 months. Is there a message with the request? Yes. Would you like me to play it now? Please, I said. The screen lit up and I gasped. The man that was on the screen was not the same man that I had left in anger 8 months ago. He looked tired and his skin had an ashen cast. Oh no, it's back, I thought as the message began to play. Hello, Eli. I have some things I need to talk to you about. I know we've talked over messages and that you understand now why things turned out the way they did, but I really regret we haven't been able to talk in person. Would it be possible for you to come and see me as soon as possible? I really would like to see you again, and I need to talk to you. The video stopped. That's all the message? I asked. Yes, said Tony. Eli, you should go and see him. Musashi appended the message. It says that the leukemia came back and it's not responding well to treatment this time. Oh God, I thought. I rubbed my hand over my head and was glad I was already sitting down. I saw how he looked, Tony, I said quietly. How long will it take us to get to him? I'm not sure. It'll take us 3 days to get to Hub, maxing out the engine, and then we'll have to figure out where Musashi is from there. There's some sort of treaty negotiations going on with Unity, and the location is top secret. Right. He mentioned that in his last letter to me. I paused. Do you mind? Of course not, she said. Why would I mind? He needs you. Well, we still have work to do, and Eli, you love the Admiral, and you have been together for a long time. You need to go talk to him in person, Tony interrupted. Humans who look like that are very ill. I believe you'll regret it if you do not go. I nodded and gave my thanks non-verbally. I couldn't trust myself not to break down if I spoke again. The view from the window had already changed to the blinking of stars that signaled we were heading back to First Hub. I stood up feeling helpless and started walking around the ship. Tony sent me wordless love and left me alone with my thoughts. The monk bowed to me when I picketed onto Musashi in front of the main hall doors. Welcome, Eli. It's good to see you again. Hi, Damien. It's good to see you too. I was surprised. It wasn't usual that Damien was the one who met me to take me to the Admiral. Is the Admiral all right? Damien frowned. For the moment. The doctors gave him a new medicine this morning, so he felt up to watching some of the new recruits. He asked that you be brought to him since he's helping the instructors with Dan evaluations. I raised my eyebrows. The instructors usually didn't need the Admiral's help with their evaluations. Nelson had told me that himself. Oh god, he's looking for his replacement, I thought. I took a deep breath. Sure, lead on, I said. Damien bowed and led me from the main hall to the practice rooms. The Admiral had brought me to several of the competitions and training sessions over the years. Some of those sessions were to teach me self-defense before I went to Unity Hub, which is how Nelson and I met, since the Admiral was a good teacher in his own right. Later, he thought I'd be interested in watching new students, or he'd have to judge a competition when I came to visit. I didn't mind, since watching the best students was a pleasure. Damien Palm opened the door to the dojo where the mix of officers and students were in the middle of fighting each other under the eye of instructors. The Admiral was watching the class from the far corner of the room. An empty chair sat next to him already, anticipating my arrival. Damien led me around the edge of the dojo to my seat. He bowed to the Admiral, then left to resume his duties. Hello, Eli, Nelson said quietly as I sat down, not taking his eyes away from the students who were sparring in the center of the room. I'm glad you've come so quickly. We weren't too far when I got your message, I said. He nodded. The lead instructor clapped his hands, and all the students immediately stopped, bowed, and turned to face him. All right, get your bokuto. We'll spar one pair at a time. There was a chorus of hi, and the students immediately went to the racks in the back of the dojo to pick out practice swords. When they finished, they sat quietly against the walls as the instructor called out the first pair. Jenny? The man said. I felt the Admiral sit forward a little. The woman that stepped onto the mat was very tall with blonde hair. She looked familiar to me, so I ran her profile through my enhancements. I turned to the Admiral in surprise. That's... I whispered. The Admiral put his fingers to his lips and nodded. I stared at the woman wide-eyed. So she was the one who killed the priests on New Harmony, I thought. There was something about her that drew you in, but the way she moved let you know she was dangerous. Reminded me a lot of Nelson when I'd seen him fight. The instructor looked around the room and I could see all the other students holding their breath. They don't want to fight her, I thought. Is she that scary? The instructor finally called out, Amy? Another, shorter woman came to the center of the room, while many of the other students let out a sigh of relief. The instructor frowned at the students against the wall, but then turned his attention to the pair in the middle. Bow, he said, and they did. He put his hand out in between them for a few seconds as they stared at each other, then lifted it and yelled, Fight! I had seen a lot of Musashi fighters over the years, including Nelson, but I had never seen anyone like Jenny before. She didn't so much fight as flow in a deadly dance around the other woman. Amy held her own for a short time, but in the end she just couldn't keep up. In short order, Jenny had her pinned to the floor. The instructor yelled, Stop! Jenny stepped back, helped Amy up, and they bowed to each other again. The instructor nodded at both of them and motioned them back to the walls. Jenny looked surprised for a moment, as did Amy, but they obediently left the floor. I turned to the Admiral, who nodded. Later, he said quietly, and we finished watching the sparring. When we got back to the Admiral's quarters, I was still astonished by Jenny's fight. Even I could see she was something special. The door closed behind us. She's the one, isn't she? I asked. Yes, the Admiral said. He came to stand in front of me. Eli, I looked him in the eyes. It's really back? Nelson nodded. Fuck, I said. You're getting treatment? Of course, but my body's barely responding to the medicine and not responding at all to the new bots. I stared at him in disbelief. What does that mean? I asked, my voice breaking. He took me in his arms. It means that I might not make it through this round. No, I said, shaking my head in futile denial. They'll find something that works. Eli. I tried to fight his embrace, not wanting to hear what he was trying to tell me. He just held me until I finally went limp and sobbed into his shoulder. He led me to the couch, drawing me down in the deep cushions, and took me in his arms until I sobbed myself out. I wasn't sure what to think or say or even feel, so I just let him hold me. They're going to try some other treatments soon, so we're not completely out of options yet, but that list is now very short, he said gently. I have some time, though, especially now that the New Harmony mission is complete. I'll focus on training Jenny and the negotiations and delegate more of the work of running the ship to Damien. Jenny will be taking her first down test soon, and then she'll take leave to settle some personal matters. When she's done with that, I'll send her my sword. He rubbed my arm. I've also just started working with a new and more open minded admiral from Unity Fleet to try and negotiate the settlement treaty. They've come around to understand why we got rid of the new Harmonists, and the data that Marcia sent out before she went with Loki is finally sinking in. The remaining members of the Senate are finally getting it through their thick heads what was happening under their noses. Nelson, he sighed. I know I should rest, but I want to make this treaty happen. It's the only way we can improve relations between us and Unity. I should be on your team, I said. No, Eli, you're a captain now. I've already got a team from the political corps working with me. But, he touched my face and smiled. It's sweet of you to offer, but would you really leave Tony without her captain? All these talks are going to take over a year to plan, even before we get to the actual in person negotiations. I know you're the best, but you left that life, Eli, he said. Besides, the best way you can help me is doing what you're doing right now, being with me. I've missed you these last few months, and I'm sorry. I took a deep breath. You're right. I can't leave Tony. But if you need help with anything, you better contact me or ask me questions when I come to visit. I looked up at him, and he had a sad smile on his face. And yes, I said quietly, I missed you too, and I'm sorry I got angry at you without really taking the time to understand. I know, he said, kissing my head. And of course I'll ask you questions. Who else would I ask for advice? I certainly know that your political knowledge hasn't leaked out your brain now that you've filled it with astrophysics, he teased. I laughed. It was a laugh tinged with a little hysteria, but it felt good to laugh with him. All right, I thought. If he wants to pass off his leukemia as just another round of chemotherapy like the last ones, then I'll just go with it. You should come over to the ship while we're here. I'll have Tony make her famous lasagna. Besides, she wants to finally say hello in person. How about tomorrow night, then, since I won't be busy? Sure. Will you stay with me tonight, though? He asked. I nodded. Of course, I said. And in my head, I thought, how can I not? Great, we should have dinner. Mia, can you print us something? Of course, Musashi said, and I heard the printer start up. Thank you for coming to be with him, Mishashi said through the bots. He loves you, and it hurt him when you left angry. I blinked, surprised, but Mishashi continued. I know you two have talked it out through messages, but he's very glad you've come back to visit with him. I couldn't not come after your message, I replied in my head. How long has the leukemia been back? I asked, and how come you're talking to me this way? I mean, I'm not mad about it, just surprised. The leukemia has only been back for a couple of months. Lucifer and the doctors believe that we have time before it gets critical. Probably about a year, maybe a little more than that. He paused. I can talk to you this way in your head because Tony gave me permission to do so. I asked for that permission when you came into real-time contact range, which is why I didn't request that you turn off your enhancements when you came aboard. Oh, you can call me Mia in private. I blushed and replied, Thank you. I'm honored. Mia surprised you, huh? Chuckled Nelson. Yeah. He smiled and patted my arm. The chime on the printer went off. Okay, as much as I'd like to stay here and cuddle you for the rest of the night, I think we should have our dinner. I groaned and sat up, then went over to the printer and started pulling out the food. Nelson retrieved the plates and utensils from their cupboard and set the table. Considering all that he and Musashi just told me, dinner felt so routine and domestic. Part of me wished we had lived together, but knowing our own natures and our work, that had never been possible. I'll bring you to him as often as we can, Eli, said Tony through the bots with determination. Thanks, Tony, I replied. I'll see you tomorrow. The love and concern she shared with me seemed to bolster me as the Admiral and I ate and talked late into the night. Chapter 8. Eli. I closed my eyes as I listened to Nelson's most recent message, playing through the lounge speakers. Jenny passed her ninth den test as well as I thought she would. She wasn't very happy with me afterwards, but she understood the nature of the test. You know, Eli, as I talk to her more, she feels like the daughter I never had. The daughter of my soul, really. I'm going to send her on her first mission with Mia, since we have an emergency situation that's come up. I can't really explain more than that, but I know Jenny can handle it. After I get back to Mia and check in with Damien, I'll be heading to Lucifer with the negotiation team. It looks like we'll be able to meet with Unity in a couple of weeks. Admiral Levine from Unity Fleet will meet us there. The Unity Admiral is a reasonable man, so I think the negotiations will go well. Thanks for your advice on reparations for what happened in the Senate. I think that will go a long way to soothing ruffled feathers on both sides. I opened my eyes and stared at Nelson's face on the screen. I miss you. I hope you can come back soon. Maybe I'll request some cargo or something to make sure you have some time with me. Nelson teased with a tired smile. I hope the surveys are going well. Tell Nemetona I said hello. Love you. Tears welled up in my eyes. Nelson's hair had turned pure white and his skin was completely ashen. I could see the pain and exhaustion in his face. Tony? We're heading back to survey space right now. It will take at least a week to get there since I'll need to get Lucifer's coordinates from the first. I'm maxing out the engines. I started crying and managed to say, through our connection, thank you. Comfort, love, and caring came through. Eli, I know how this feels. I went through it with Lily. We will get there as fast as we can. I sent gratitude through our link, then cried myself to sleep. Sleep was harder to come by the rest of the week. Tony did her best to comfort me, but I was anxious to see Nelson. I had a feeling that it might be the last time I ever see him alive. I was glad, though, that we'd spent a lot more time together over the last year. I tried to study every so often while we traveled, but I couldn't focus. Instead, I spent most of my time pacing around the hab ring thinking about Nelson and our life together. Eli, I just got a picket from Lucifer with coordinates. We don't need to stop at Hub, so we'll be there a day early, Tony said at the end of the second day. I was in the galley staring at the book I was supposed to be reading. Thanks, I said. The food printer started up. I'm printing a nutrition shake for you. You should drink it. You haven't had much food in the last day. Yeah, okay, I said. When the printer chimed, I obediently got up and took the drink out of the printer. I didn't know what the flavor was when I drank it, and I didn't really care. I could feel Tony's worry. She didn't say anything about Nelson or that he was dying. She only made sure that I ate, showered, and exercised while we traveled. I appreciated that she didn't try to tell me that Nelson was going to be all right. On our fourth night of travel, Tony gave me a gentle mental prod to wake me from an exhausted sleep. Eli. I opened my eyes. What is it, Tony? I've gotten a message from Lucifer. The Admiral collapsed during a meeting today and is in the hospital. He is still alive, but in critical condition. I sat up. How much longer till we get there? I wish I could go faster, Eli, but we still have a day of travel, she said apologetically. I nodded, feeling numb except for a creeping sense of dread. I know, Tony. You can't break the laws of physics. I'm trying to bend them, but they only bend so far, she said, flavoring her thoughts with sadness that she couldn't go faster for me. I chuckled. What would I do without you, Tony? Tony just sent her loving care through the bots. I laid back down again and stared at the wall for a long time before exhaustion overtook me again. I can't picket you directly into the room. The doctors won't allow it, but I'll put you just outside in the hallway. I had managed to shower and change into a nice suit right before we arrived at Lightbringer, so I was ready to go once we got there. I took a deep breath and said, All right, Tony, send me over. The picket landed on my shoulder, and suddenly I was in the hospital with all of its typical sounds and smells. A Musashi soldier was standing outside the door. They stood at attention when they heard the pop of the picket, stepping forward a bit just as the door to the room opened and Jenny stepped out. She had a sword belted on her waist, one with a phoenix beautifully painted on the scabbard, the sword that I knew Nelson had made for her. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. Jenny said something to the soldier at the door, then knelt down and wrapped her arms around me. Oh, Eli, I'm so sorry. He passed just a few minutes ago. She held me with a gentle strength that surprised me as I sobbed into her shoulder. I didn't know how long we sat there on the floor, but after a bit I started to try and get out of her embrace. I need to see him, please. Jenny let go gently, stood and helped me off the floor. She led me into Nelson's room, saying something quietly to Damien as she entered. The man nodded and went over to the monks. They stopped their prayers and filed out of the room, bowing to Jenny as they did so. Damien left last. Take your time, Eli, Jenny said, and went to stand in front of the door. I approached the bed slowly. It looked as if Nelson was just sleeping, as if I could shake his shoulder and wake him up. But it was also so wrong because Nelson had never slept still in his life. I touched one of his hands, which were crossed over his belly. It was already cold to the touch. I could tell that his spirit was gone. There was no warmth anymore. I realized I would never feel those hands hold me ever again. Nelson wasn't here anymore, and I would never see him again. Breathing quickly and shallowly, I backed away from the bed and turned to face Jenny. I can't stay here, I said, not really knowing what else to do. The woman nodded. Come with me, she said, opening the door and leading me out to the hallway. She gestured to the monks who were waiting outside, muttering prayers. They all filed into the room again, leaving the hallway empty. The soldier who was guarding the door stepped forward. Jenny held up her hand. It's okay, Scott. I'm going back to the ship. Let Damien know that I'll be in my office when he's finished here. Yes, sir, the soldier said and went back to guarding the door. Jenny held my arm firmly but gently as we picketed directly to our office on Musashi. I felt Tony's worry for a moment, then relief as her brother let her know where I was. She sent love and comfort through our link, but didn't say anything else. I sent love and gratitude back. I'll let you know when I'm ready to come back, Tony, I said through the bots. Understood, she replied. The new admiral took off her sword and put it on the desk. I stared at it with unseeing eyes. He commissioned that blade for you even before you officially told him yes, I said. I don't know why it was important to tell her that. He knew you'd be his apprentice before you even took your first DAN test. She sat down behind the desk. I know, she said quietly. The abbot told me. I knew when I saw you the first time that he had chosen you to be his successor. I was rambling, not sure really what else to talk about. I think he saw some of himself in you. She nodded. Eli, I know you've knew him a lot longer than I did, but somehow in the short time I was apprenticed to him, I really got to know him. He became like a father to me. The father I always wanted, but never had. We became a lot closer than I thought we could in such a short time. Jenny took a deep breath, then reached into a drawer of her desk, pulling out a small box. He talked about you often. I know how close you two were. She pushed the box towards me. I'd like to think that he'd want you to have this. I took the box with shaking hands and opened it. I gasped. But this is the Admiral's ring. This has been passed down from Admiral to Admiral since Admiral Winters. I would like you to have it, Eli, said Musashi. Well, it's been tradition to pass it down. Traditions are not set in stone. This ring was also meant to be given to those close to an admiral, or whoever they or I deem worthy of receiving it. You were his partner in all but legal name, and I want you to have this in his memory, and with my thanks for making Nelson happy through his life. Jenny gave a sad smile. Besides, me will make me a new one if I ever choose to gift someone with it, she said, with a haunted look in her eyes. I nodded, closed the box, and clutched it in my hands as if I might accidentally drop it. The interment service will be in a week. Will you come? She asked. I nodded again. Just let Tony know when, and I'll be there. I have to change and announce this to the crew. You're welcome to stay here for a while, or in his quarters if you like. Whatever you need to do. I looked at the woman in front of me, who seemed to have aged a lot more than her actual years overnight. I shook my head. Those are your quarters now, Jenny. I'll go back to Nemetona. I'll be here for the ceremony. Jenny nodded. I've chosen to honor him by also becoming the Admiral officially, but you're welcome to call me Jenny in private, Eli. I heard enough about you from him that you're almost like a stepfather. She smiled again. I wiped my eyes. Thank you. Don't be a stranger, Eli. Come visit me when you can, okay? She asked. I nodded again, afraid to speak, as what she said was close to the last words Nelson had said to me. I took a few deep breaths, staring at the ring box. Mia, she said. I stood up, shaking. I looked at Jenny, who also had tears running down her face. She nodded, and the picket brought me back to Nemetona. The main hall in Musashi was quiet, considering all the people that were present. Soldiers, captains, and others from all over Survey had come to pay their respects. A picture of Nelson in his formal kimono was on the altar, in front of the large Buddha statue surrounded by flowers, fruit, and candles. His sword lay underneath it. One by one, people lit incense at the altar. The bottom of the altar was open, showing the urns of the other admirals who had passed. I knew that his picture would eventually be placed on the wall with his sword in the main hall with the other former admirals. The ceremony would be beautiful and simple, just as he would have liked it. I stayed in the back of the room, near where Jenny was waiting, still as a statue of marble in her white formal kimono and sword wrapped in white silk. Next to her on the table was the golden urn with Nelson's ashes. I had no idea how long Jenny had been standing with the urn, since she was there when I came on board. It was almost as if she was guarding it. "She is," said Tony mentally, who was watching through my connection. "Mia told me that they've had a soldier guarding it since it arrived on the ship. The Admiral's taken the last day, and she's been there for 22 hours. "Surprised she's not asleep on her feet," I replied. My esteem for the new Admiral rose, and to see her give Nelson that much respect lifted my spirit from its grief for a moment. "Mia says she is very determined and can't be swayed when she feels that she has a responsibility to meet." Tony's comment was tinged with respect and a bit of awe. "She is a worthy successor." "I think so, too," I replied. Tony sent love and concern to me as the last of the mourners entered the hall. When no one else had gone up to the altar for a few minutes, Jenny gave a slight nod and one of the monks rang a bell 3 times. The monks then started chanting a prayer. When they finished, Jenny took up the urn and walked slowly towards the altar with it while the bells were rung again. She placed the urn in its niche under the altar, bowed to it, then knelt at the Buddha statue in front of Nelson's picture, bowing until her head touched the floor. The other soldiers and monks followed. Then they all sat up. The monks, soldiers, and the admiral all began chanting again for several minutes, then were quiet again. Jenny's voice, though quiet, carried through the room. "The Admiral was like a father to me. It surprised me that it took only a short time for us to bond as we did. I will always remember his kindness, his wisdom, and his strength," she said, and bowed again. Damien, who was in the front row closest to Jenny, spoke. "The Admiral was my friend for a very long time. I will always remember the time he helped me through the loss of my husband." After Damien, others spoke of their memories of Nelson, some openly weeping, others stoically quiet like Jenny. I was the last to speak. I stared at the Admiral's ring on my finger. "I will always remember his love for me," I said quietly, but loud enough to be heard in the silence. After another few moments of silence, Jenny stood up, signaling the others to rise with her. "Let us take refuge," she said, and began to recite, slowly with others joining in. "May the benefit of our work today and all our work be dedicated unto the complete liberation and the supreme enlightenment of all beings, everywhere pervading space and time. May the benefits of practice, ours and others, come to fruition ultimately and immediately, and we remain in the state of presence. So mote it be." She then turned and walked back towards where I was sitting. That seemed to be a signal that the ceremony was over. A quiet murmur went through the room as people cried and hugged one another. Jenny stood in front of me and asked, "How are you, Eli?" I I took a deep breath and rubbed my eyes. "I'm surviving." She gave my shoulder a gentle squeeze and nodded. "That's all we can do, isn't it?" I nodded. "Listen, Eli," she said. "I'd understand if you didn't want to stay for the dinner. Mia told me that crowds are not your thing." I nodded again. "That's really kind of you, Admiral, but I think I'll stay for a little while." "All right." She patted my shoulder and made her way to the crowd that was heading for the dining hall. A few others I had known over the years came and gave me their condolences as I stayed in my seat in the back of the hall. When the last people filed out, I made my way to the altar, took some incense from the basket, and lit it. As I stuck it in one of the holders, I said, "I'm so sorry that I didn't make it in time, Nelson, to tell you I loved you one last time." I fiddled with the Admiral's ring on my right hand as tears rolled down my face. I heard soft footfalls come up to the altar. I turned my head to see Damien standing next to me. He bowed, then added his own sticks of incense to the holder. We stood looking at it for a long moment. "He loved you very much," the man said. "He told me once that if your jobs and natures had permitted it, he would have lived with you, maybe even married you. But he understood his own nature and yours very well. He had no regrets, Eli, even when he stopped treatment. You made each other happy, even if you did get on each other's nerves sometimes." Damien chuckled. "He knew you loved him, Eli, and that was enough." I nodded. I couldn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. We stood quiet together for a while, then Damien inclined his head and left. I could hear the noise of people talking through the door to the dining hall. Suddenly it was all too much. "Take me home, Tony," I said through the bots, and she pickened me back to the ship.
You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me in my writing, there are several ways to do it. Share this podcast, find me on Twitch, or subscribe to my website, ljspencer.ie. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.